Good afternoon, everybody. I think people are enjoying their drinks. Maybe we can ask everybody to just come in and join the session. Coming, yeah.
We like talking.
Yeah.
Saves us from a meeting afterwards.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for some amazing supporters. I feel a little encouraged to 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 moderate this session. Oh, I see people. Thank you. Thank you.
What the pressure.
Yeah, I mean, like, come on. I'm Indian. I can pressurize people to get things done. Well, as we were talking about, sound and its impact on our environment and sustainability, I think it's the perfect time to move on to talk about how sound and creativity we can leverage to drive equality. And we have some amazing speakers with us. I'm trying to find my document. Yes. We just heard how sound can steer emotions, awake the world, but now we are stepping further. How energy turns into policy, lasting impact, and how it impacts women and girls around the world. And with me, I have two amazing speakers, Françoise Cardoso, Global Director of CSR, L-Acoustics, and Angeline Martyn, Chief Brand and Partnership Officer of UN Live. Thank you for joining us. And also Angeline led one of the most iconic projects of UN Live projects, which is Sound Right, and it has also been nominated for many awards this year. Again, congratulations on that. So maybe this question is to both of you. What does female leadership uniquely bring into a table, whether it is climate change, sustainability, anything we are talking about? How do you think female leadership brings something different to the table?
I love that question because there's so many layers to it. I'll start with the bottom line, and that is we know that when women are in the C-suite at the highest level, there's 25% greater profits. So right off the bat, there's a lot of reward that comes from it, but you also see greater retention, greater innovation, and better products. When I think about women's leadership and my personal journey in it, it was influenced by the first female prime minister in the world, who was from Sri Lanka, where I'm from. And this idea of seeing someone modeling the leadership makes something seem entirely possible, and it creates that future vision. But it directly contributes to system change. So just taking that example of Sri Lanka, it's no accident that there's a 97% completion of secondary school, that there are one of the highest maternal health rates in the world, and that you see more when peace processes over a 40-year war, that women were at the heart of that peace and sustainability process. So just an example that it truly impacts across the ecosystem when women are leading. Thank you.
That's an amazing example. I remember growing up as a kid in India, often my mother would give example of like, look at, she's the female president of Sri Lanka, how she is doing it. And it kind of really stuck with me. And in some different ways, I think I've modeled some of those behaviors, like even not knowing that how those words or those images impacts us. Maybe, Françoise, maybe I would love to hear from you.
Yeah, thank you. I think that I would start by something very important we were discussing before, because we love talking. To me, environmental and social goes hand in hand. We used to silo that, especially in companies, we address environmental challenges, climate change, and all these things. And then social, we deal with social completely disconnected from this. And I think that they go hand in hand because if you protect the planet and you don't have anybody to live in that planet, then you will not sustain. And if you take care of people without taking care of the planet, then it does not work. So I think that first, this is my really fight, let's say. And why women play a role in that is that it's key. If you look at emerging countries, for instance, women are the ones who are transforming, you know, the world, driving climate change, because they are in charge of, you know, bringing water to the family, bringing food to their close ones, and so on. So women leadership here plays a role in really reconciling, you know, environmental and social. So to me, it's and today I think we separate the two still, and I really would love to reconcile the two.
That's a beautiful to set the foundation of the conversation. Angeline, Sound Right is a bold. It was a bold initiative to turn music into climate action. But how, in your position, you use the power of creativity to bring political change, or maybe, you know, bring real change at scale? Because it was a very big project that I've heard it like with so many different resources.
So, Sounds Right is a flagship program of UN Live, and the very origin story of UN Live is that the Secretary General of the UN at the time, Ban Ki-moon, was convening with some of his other former colleagues, other SGs, and had this idea that we need to turn things on its head. While the system of the UN is critical and the policy discussions and leadership is essential to our being, we were not achieving progress and making change at the scale or pace needed. So if you look at the Sustainable Development Goals, we're 5 years out from them, and we're seeing both a regression and overall complete, I would say, unattainability in many of the goals at the pace that we're currently at. So the idea was, how do we flip it on its head and reach people where they already are? And popular culture is where you find the most people. And so this idea of reaching the many where they are through those same mediums that they're already on without actually trying to take them off platform. So if you think about the success of Sounds Right, it's people doing what they already do with very little effort and incredible return because of the business model. So this idea of how do you then shift that into, and how sound has this ripple effect that's greater, that's literally impacting the environment and the world at large.
That's a perfect timing to ask you a question on CSR, which is your favorite topic, right? Françoise, so the question is, how do you build this framework of CSR while keeping human-centered design in mind?
Good question. I think, and
also making sure like you're future-proofing the organization, the planet, the people that you're working with.
And first of all, maybe I would like to say a word on Sounds Right, because we are really supporting the initiative, and because for me it's the perfect example of what I said before, just reconciling nature and people, because we are protecting the nature with these royalties, and in the meantime we trigger emotions and well-being to people having these artists using nature sound. So I think it's really a very good model that we could replicate and maybe think about other things together. So yeah, CSR. CSR is a complex topic. As you may know now, CSR is in all companies, and people usually who come to CSR, they're not trained to that. They just come by convictions and having or not the power to act. So it's really a fight, because if you want companies to be sustainable and then contribute to this sustainable world, you need to embed and to incorporate CSR in all what we do. And when I remember my boss, when he hired me, he asked me, well, what are your key success factors? And I said, well, my first one would be that if I disappear and that you will not need any CSR director anymore, I will be very happy. It was like, my God, she wants to disappear. She did not start yet. But yeah, for me, it's a success. It would mean that everybody is thinking CSR, integrating very early KPIs, and in the design, sustainability. And it's just, of course, it's convictions, but it's also just organization. You cannot see that as a constraint, So, yeah.
Do you want to add something?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think successful CSR is rooted in culture. It's understanding the culture of your company, understanding the values of your customers, understanding the interests of your employees, and thinking about how you could integrate that into your impact in the world and your footprint on the world through all your channels. I think the most successful CSR relationships that I've been a part of have been one where there's a handshake between the business side and the purpose side, and it's integrated, and it's been something where I've had so many partners at the most senior Fortune 100 companies saying, we've never been in a room together with this person, we've never had a conversation, and by the end of it, when we share the example of how we've successfully integrated, they're super excited, and it turns into something transformative. So I think taking that risk and pulling down the firewalls is a really critical way, and leading with culture as the ecosystem through which all innovation is designed.
That's powerful. I think we are talking about intentional inclusion. And it takes a lot of intention to integrate all kinds of voices. So you both are working in the global space. How do you integrate women voices from the global south who are most impacted by some of the issues that you're tackling?
Yeah, I think that great question. Today, when we talk about gender equality, and if you want more women, in top management or in, let's say, jobs with responsibilities, you have to set up quotas. That's the way it works. Has disability, people were not used to see disabled people in companies until, you were obliged to have disabled people and a percentage. So I'm not in favor of quotas. I would prefer, to naturally show that diverse teams with women and men are really useful and powerful to innovation and to long-term, let's say, sustainable change. So what do I do? Let's say I try to engage people, and in all what I do, I'm trying to highlight, women that are engaged, women that do that, and I think that valorizing them, creating some role models, showing that diversity is key, will shift the mindset instead of, setting the quotas.
So I'm very, I guess, goal-oriented in the way I think about answering that kind of question, because, in the creative world or in the corporate world, oftentimes when we're looking for new voices and looking for new ideas, we crowdsource, we run a focus group. UN Live, where I work, has a solution that allows you to really access those voices, access those experiences, and then leverage your platforms to lead. We have an initiative called Global We. And it's these portals, shipping containers that are screens from ceiling to floor. And you step into that portal, and you can have a conversation currently in 23 other countries, a facilitated conversation around so many different things. So IKEA, for example, had some curiosity about climate. And they worked with us to run this over several months in these 23 portals. And it turned out to be the world's largest conversation on climate that has ever taken place. We've been able to then take those very personal experiences and then inform them through AI to really have a lifespan much longer. And so that was not just a social responsibility project, right? It was something that infuses the entire business mechanism and thoughts moving forward, but also gives the world insights as well.
Yes. I mean, you're talking about impact at scale. And scale means you have to be able to measure, it should be measurable, scalable, and impactful on a long run. And let's talk about risk and resistance when you talk about scale. What are the pushbacks you encounter when you center the work that you do around culture and gender narrative to push your agenda around climate or in just corporate space?
So I guess one of the things that I think about is the way that you break through resistance is by building truly authentic partnerships. And if a relationship is built on that mutual trust and a shared common objective, then you can move through that resistance because you have a shared common goal. So really I always look to have a shared leadership vision stated from the onset to think about where are we working towards and then building the infrastructure through change to achieve that. I mean, Sounds Right is an incredible program because you look at it, you hear the sound. It's very hard to say no, and that's what's exciting about it. It's built on a model that it's very easy to say yes to because of the way it's moving the many.
And if you have a project and that's harder for your partners to say yes, do you have any example of any of those kind of initiatives where it's harder to push your agenda, even though it's the right one?
So one of my favorite stories is this idea that, if you're working on climate, well, X company is already doing it, so I don't want to do it as well. And we used to say, my former boss and I used to say, oh God, we got to go in the closet and tell this company that another CPG company is about to launch this thing. And our CEO said it, and I repeat it all the time, is that the problems that we face in the world are too large for any one NGO, any one corporation, any one institution to solve. So we have to work together, and we have to bypass exclusivity. And I think that's one of the resistance that sometimes come up is about that. But it's something that I always lead with that answer. And when people hear it and they remember what we're here for, it dissipates.
That's amazing.
Maybe just to add, I think that the pushback is that usually, when I arrive at L-Acoustics, they told me, well, but we are good in diversity, equality, inclusion. We do it by nature and so on. And I said, well, but we are only 60% of women. So how do you explain that? And they told me, well, but we don't have any candidates. So we cannot hire women. I said, well, so the problem is even earlier. So should we train, at schools, giving girls, ability to, increase their awareness that they can come, and do a career in sound or in the industry, and they said, oh, yeah, okay, good idea maybe, because if you don't have any candidates, that you need to act before.
Yeah, that's an important point. Actually, I was moving towards asking you about next generation. Many young women want to lead with purpose, but the lack of access to platforms and powers is what stops them. What kind of infrastructure, funding, mentorship, and amplification do we provide to the next generation so they do something about what they care about?
Yes, exactly. I think that we see that new generation, they care about purpose, they care about sense, and they care about their life balance, meaning that their life is composed of course, work, social, family, and they really care about that. And they're comfortable with that. They're not hiding that they're seeking this balance. So I think that to really meet their needs and their expectations, we need to have a kind of peer-to-peer mentorship, with the more seniors in the company, and kind of reverse mentoring. having the next generation, telling us that life, is not life that you were living before. It's really now really different. So I think that intergenerational is key to create these relationships and inspiration.
And including them at the table. You all have to stay for our next session because we have an incredible young woman moderating, and I think that is how this process begins, when we start having the conversations together and thinking about that. We have an incredible program in India called Defenders of Planet Earth, and it's co-hosted by a 5-year-old and an older person, I would say. But one of the stories of those defenders is a 10-year-old girl who is a diver from Chennai. Her name is Thurangi. And she has personally collected over 2,000 kilograms of waste from the water. And that is being filmed and shown as an example. In the next phase of this project, which we're actively looking for partners to join us on, there would be a digital component and a launch of this series and an opportunity for individuals in Chennai and across the country, looking at a couple big states to start with, to look at these individuals that are, we call ordinary people doing extraordinary things, and themselves take an action as a defender in their own community to do something up. So it's an active approach to meet people where they are through a TV or a series streaming online, and then have them witness that, experience it, and take an action accordingly in their own community and in their own lives. So we hope that someone here will join us in that journey.
Yeah, that's a very powerful example, by the way. But that brings me to the last question, which is about leadership. Sometimes we think, who is in that role, but how do we define that role? I think that's more important. Maybe, Françoise, I will start with you.
I see, so it's my opinion, but I think that I hope it will be shared by you. Being a leader today, it's not being a decision maker anymore. It's not the one who's delivering, To me, it's someone who's able to gather people, to collectively have, their opinions, collective intelligence, and showing the way more than just driving, It's not a matter of hierarchy today. I think it's a power, of inspiring others. For me, being a leader, no matter if you have a 1-year experience or a 30-year of experience, it's the way you behave, and the way you do things, more than, just being vocal and driving by outcomes.
Beautiful. Angeline, you two have to...
Yeah, that was beautifully said. For me, it's not about giving access, it's about giving agency. Very simply.
Mic drop. That's a powerful way to end the session. Thank you so much, both of you. Maybe I should ask you, how is Con? Like, what are you expecting for next few days? This is just the second day of Con Lions. What are you expecting from the creatives here?
I hope that new projects will pop up. My friend Amber is there, and I think that we already have some new things in mind. So for me, this is a momentum. This is a strong moment where we share, where we can be inspired. But it's not one shot for me. It's not just a campaign. It's something, in a journey, and hopefully we'll do new things together.
So we're only on day 2, and my expectations are already exceeded. So we were really fortunate to be awarded a bronze yesterday for our Soundtrack program. We found out today we were shortlisted for 2 more, and yesterday my colleague Aminza presented to the jury on the Innovation Award, which we're also shortlisted for. And I think that is, to us, what this work really is about. It's about how do we break the system, how do we think differently about doing this work, and how do we get the industry to join us. The session I just came from, I literally had goosebumps because every single panelist talked about this idea of how does culture affect change? How do we build human connection? And we're talking about Snapchat, Kansas City Chiefs. These are the kind of people that were having those conversations and thinking about it exactly what we're trying to solve for. So that really gives me hope that the model we're trying to build is going to help us achieve the SDGs in the next few years.
Thank you. Creativity can really change the world, and thank you to both of you.